Welcome everybody. What's up? What's up, YouTube and Rockfin? Welcome to Frank Analysis. Welcome to this week's Solutions Call-in show. Today we're going to talk about MMT, crypto, community monetary systems. What is the best path forward in terms of a monetary system? Because there could be some issues with like crypto. Is MMT an actual thing? I've discussed this here on this show over a year ago with a guest. But we're gonna talk about all that. Like, how should we? What's the best way to opt out of the system in terms of the monetary aspect? Like, should we be using crypto, or should we be using some other monetary system? Should we be using gold? So we're gonna get into that today, and I'm just gonna show the guests that I have here, and you're free to join. Anyone who wants to join the conversation, the link to my Discord is in the description, and also have people who are watching the show. I'm gonna share the link in the live chat. But go ahead, guys. What are your thoughts on that? What is the Yeah, I think Shadowban is the most knowledgeable here about this. Wait, hang on, Shadowban. They can't hear you. Let me adjust the audio here so they can hear you. All right. Here we go. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, go ahead, Shadowban.
Okay, so basically, we in the United States have been on a strict monetary policy since Nixon was in office. We moved up the gold standard, as you've heard, and basically the Fed controls absolutely everything. The Fed was created in 1913, and gold was seized from the people of the United States under the Roosevelt administration, the second one, under FDR. And so the idea that we can go back to the gold standard, I think, is not a thing. But also the system that we work in now under monetary policy doesn't work. But also, I don't really see MMT as a way forward. I think that's a new branding of the same system that we've been under for the past 50 years. Being that I kind of know how government contracting works on infrastructure because I build it, and I know the bidding process and all that shit. So crypto could be a way to move forward on that. It could end in disaster. There's different types of cryptocurrency. There's proof of work, there's proof of stake, there's effective proof of stake, there's Internet of Things types of cryptocurrencies. There's a whole lot of different types of cryptocurrency out there and their protocols. As far as the technicals on it, I'm not that well versed, but I'm always open to learning on it. But I think Keynesianism has kind of come to a head, and we need to address how monetary exchange is done for goods and services, and that's kind of my take on it.
Awesome. Anybody have their thoughts?
Yeah, it just kind of made me think, like, the majority of, like, humanity hasn't really seen, like, a currency or anything like that, and, like, we lived, like, thousands and thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years without currency, trading and bartering and other forms of exchange that we probably don't even know about. And yeah, I just think that like maybe there's you know, room for thinking about things outside of like you said, the fiat currency system or even gold. Like I don't think that going back to the gold standard is the way to do it, but I do see the fiat system has a lot of problems. I think that maybe some of the problems are due to like laws that allow people to like get away with terrible things like not paying taxes and stuff. But I don't know if I'm even correct on that. It could go way further than that. I think that just like trading and stuff and using cash, to me, like the whole crypto thing, and like or even debit cards and stuff like that is kind of scary because everything is tracked, and I like being able to exchange things anonymously. I think that's like a very important thing that we can do like right now in this society, and then if that goes away, that's like really scary to me. Yeah.
So should we go back to like trading and like what since Marcus is here, what can you tell us about like how, you know, ancient societies and stuff used to trade and stuff? Like do you think that would be efficient to go back to?
Honestly, I would say that would probably be the best solution. We have to keep in mind that when we talk about the fiat currency or even when we talk about the gold standard, we don't have the ability to change it. And none of us are ever going to have the ability to change it. And the reason why is right now it's already proven that roughly, I mean, I guess conservative estimate, 85%. I believe it's closer to 92%. So between 85 and 90%, 92% of the currency is already locked up into a certain amount of hands. So basically, we're all basically fighting for about 10% of the remaining resources. That's the reason why we see more of why things seem more dire and why people are trying to figure out solutions. If we use any kind of electronic system, that's something they can always capitalize on and manipulate. Think back to what happened with GameStop not that long ago. We found a way to take their system and use it against them, and then what did they do? They took their ball and went home. So we have to find a way to metaphorically take our ball and go home also. And I think trading is one of the best ways, because if you're trading, for one, you're not paying taxes. That's one way it keeps them out of the loop also, and it becomes something between you and that other person. And if you build up a network of people to barter and trade with, that could be a good way of circumventing some of this. Now, in major kingdoms, and I'm talking about going all the way back to like the Sumerians, they did have forms of currency. So currency is not new, but in the hunter-gatherer areas, which were mostly kind of separate, it's almost kind of like city versus rural. It's kind of like as if the rural people were bartering and trading, whereas the people in the city were dealing with currency. It's the same thing in the old world. In the old world, they had their forms of currency. In fact, almost every ruler would put themselves on the currency. And a lot of times they would use the gold, copper, bronze, various different things for that metal or that currency. But honestly, barter and trade, I feel like, is the best way to get away from the people who control the hands of most of the money.
Also, just as a side note to that, if anyone's truly interested in the history of money, let me preface this by saying there are some like out there right-wing connotations to this book, but The Creature from Jekyll Island is a short read. It's not it's not too heavy reading, and you can read it in a day. You can audiobook it. You can find it on YouTube. It's not a big deal. it kind of gives you a short and concise history of the way that currency has worked since the Sumerian Empire, and and how precious metals were used, and then how and how banking works, and how finance in and of itself works, and interest and all that shit. So, I mean, if you can get past the right-wing connotations that are in it, it is a valuable resource to kind of wrap your head around the history of currency and how it's been used in the past. So, just to add that on a little bit.
What do you think about like the Zeitgeist movement documentary? That's kind of like an overview of the same kind of thing from like a leftist point of view, I guess. And it's a movie.
I would argue you need I would argue the Monster from Jekyll Hyde. That should be like almost required for anybody who's trying to figure out anything about the monetary system. Because you got to remember, like Shadow was saying, creature. That's what I meant. Granted, like Shadow was saying, it is coming from a right-wing perspective, but you need that. You honestly need to see it from the right-wing perspective, because most of the people at the top, the predatory class, come from a very capitalistic mindset and right-wing. So it's better to hear it in their own words, and you can understand on some of the game they're doing.
Oh, you're glitching a little bit, Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus, you're coming in and out. Yeah, now you got your mic muted.
I think we caught the most part. The last little bit kind of glitched out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually.
Sorry, you guys. I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah, I got glitched out.
If you start looking into it and it starts naming what I was saying, the last part is it'll give you a good framing from a right winger's perspective, because you got to remember a lot of these donors and people at the time were heavily in the Republican Party.
Or still, the Democratic Party, their ideology for the most part aligns with the like their philosophy, and all their fucking favorite fucking writers and shit are pretty much the same as the Republican Party for the most part. They all be jerking off to Adam Smith and fucking people like that. Never actually reading them.
Now,
But
they
quoting all their
didn't
fancy
used to
quotes.
be like that. I'm telling you. They didn't used to be this bad, I'm telling you.
But they all have like a neoliberal consensus that like the free market rules.
This is completely outside the realm of Adam Smith's theories. Like,
oh yeah,
we are in an entirely different system than what Adam Smith.
And I'm a communist, and I'm not even against like smaller forms of capitalism, like petty capitalism or regional capitalism. But as soon as corporate capitalism, and I feel like capitalism will eventually morph into corporate capitalism or larger monopolies and shit. But like the smaller versions of it, I don't have a problem with. Bringing your food to the market or whatever, like.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
You're kind of taking the line of the Narodniks, right? With God, what is his name? One of the old Bolsheviks that got picked off by Stalin. Bukharin. There we go. Bukharin.
History's gonna repeat itself, people. Look.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
it always is.
If anyone's interested in that line of thinking, check out Bukharin, Bukharin, and the Narodnik movement inside of the Soviet Union. It's an interesting movement of mixed economies, and how smaller scale capitalism is detrimental and to the world, and how like finance capital kind of ruins everything. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, like, because that is an interesting juxtaposition, right? That capital does tend to monopolize, right? That's from not only Marx, but
I think Adam Smith would say that too. Like that's what.
Yes.
Like when he talked about the invisible hand, he would talk about like monopolies or like just problems in the market that the government would come in and pass policy to stop that from happening or whatever. But people think the invisible hand is like is our buying power, and it's like, no, I'm gonna vote with my dollars. It's like, that doesn't fucking work, dude. The monopolies don't give a fuck. There's always fucking more people to sell to.
Yes, and I mean that's actually true. The invisible hand was a warning of the state monopolizing the rules of the market like they have. So I mean, like I said, we're completely outside of the realm of what Adam Smith envisioned. Adam Smith wrote his text by feather pen and candlelight. We're in the 21st century.
Like, to me, sorry, I said earlier that, like, yeah, voting with your dollars doesn't work or whatever. I think that it isn't going to take down the system, but I think voting with your dollars sets up logistics. So, like donating to Franco, you know, hit that donate button, people, because it's building a network or whatever. It's like building a logistic network kind of thing. And I think that is voting with your dollars and is effective, but it ain't going to change things really. It's only going to, like, maybe be one part of the puzzle.
Yes, one part of the puzzle. It's not an end all be all. It's not a this or that.
But I hate when people do that. Like, my brother and sister were doing, or my brother-in-law and sister were doing that to me. Like, fucking vote with your dollars and acting like it's like literally gonna save the world. But it's like, I agree with the sentiment, but like, I want you motherfuckers to go further, please.
Yeah. Like, it's not an end-all be-all, but yes, conscious buying power is also a thing. Even MLK talked about this. We should always be ready to use the power that we have of economic withdrawal. Like, in his last speech, he was very much talking about boycotting Coca-Cola, boycotting certain banks that weren't down with the movement of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. That is an aspect, so don't rule that entirely out. Buying power is a thing.
Well, and don't forget, when he was also going into those things, that's at the same time when he started really bringing attention to the fact of the white liberals not actually, being a lot more talk than action. And we see it still to this day. Oh, well, we can kind of get this one program and we may get this. And if we get a couple more Congress people part of the squad, then this will happen. It's the same shit.
You, Ryan Grimm. I fucking see you.
Well, yeah, but like, as far as the monetary system is concerned, we are at a breaking point, right? Like, and to what Marcus was saying is that he thinks it's more like 92% of the wealth that is in existence and is locked into a certain amount of hands. And that's a lot of that has to do with money creation, right? It used to be called money printing, but now they only have to type some zeros into a balance sheet. I think it was Ben Bernanke, the former chair of the Fed, said that a few years back in a Freudian slip moment.
What the fuck's
they do that.
His wife's name? Fucking, she's that news reporter.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's Alan Greenspan. Never mind. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, you're thinking your Greenspan was right before Bernanke. But so the whole idea of that is that when they create more money, at least 85% of it goes to the very, very tippy top in financial institutions to lock into derivatives, right? And derivatives market is just speculation, right? It's shorting and longing markets. It's gambling, right?
It's what the Bible fucking warned about.
Yes,
that's
it did.
Fucking speculation, Jesus.
Bible warns about a lot of things. It's literally, the Bible literally predicts that all of this bullshit would be going on, that our leaders would be like worthless, that they would be crooks. And it also said that at this time towards the end, they're all going to start being exposed. And I look around and I'm starting to see people wake up.
Marcus, that's go in there and flip some tables like Jesus.
Hey, I'm not only gonna flip the tables, I'm braiding up that cord too.
Yeah, he didn't just flip tables. He was chilling there with braiding that whip, stewing on it. Like, does anyone else want to talk about like the monetary aspect of that and how we move around that? And even if we still use money as it exists now, how do we keep that in the community instead of sending it out to massive financial institutions, right? Like, it's easy enough to say, stop buying Walmart, go local, right? But how do you do that, right? Like, so, For instance, we were talking about flyers a couple weeks back. What about setting up some tables outside of Walmart property and setting up some flyers for people to go to the local farmers market? What about mutual aid programs such as like Habitat for Humanity? Maybe people can get together and help some people out on a farm that is really struggling right now. Like, I don't have all the answers for that. I'm not pretending like I have all the answers for this, but you have to act local, and you have to do it in such a way that it empowers the people at the bottom level, because if not, like, everything gets co-opted, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when I'm talking about keeping money in your community, I'm talking about knocking some doors in your neighborhood. If you live in an apartment complex, knock on some doors in your apartment complex. Ask people what kind of resources they would need, and see what kind of shops locally that people can shop at that aren't Walmart, that aren't Smith's or Kroger Corporation or whatever the fuck. And like, this isn't an end all be all. I'm not saying this is just gonna solve everything. But like, yeah, I think that needs to be part of the conversation. How do you keep the capital that we have left that isn't monopolized in the hands of our immediate community? Anyone have anything to say on that?
By donating to Anthony Reyes' fucking PC donation fund. Fucking donate already.
Go ahead,
I
Suncat.
feel like keeping what you were saying, like doing stuff for, within your community. I feel like barter and trading can be conducted in small communities. Like, let's say in your small residential area, I guess. People can start doing more of like those community gardens to just like kind of grow and share produce together. Whatever they can't grow there, support local farmers. Like in my area, there are some farmers markets, and there's, I can't remember like the actual name of the farm, but they have like their own trucks, and they set up like different stands all around the county. And that's how they garner support.
Yeah, that would be really cool if like they had flyers or something like that to
Yeah.
pass those out right outside of the Walmart premises where everyone shops,
Yeah.
or at the IHOP or whatever local restaurant. Like, how do you get the information of these people, right? And how do you make the information available to people so that they know they can
Yeah.
help out their neighbor? Because like, you can't constantly give your money away to the multinationals without paying a price eventually. We're already starting to see that, because considering the supply chains are broken and the monopolies own the supply chains, they're allowed to just spike prices as high as they would possibly like and blame the market, when it's really them inflating the shit on purpose.
Right. I feel like flyers are pretty effective. I know there's also like an app that connects people in the local area wherever you might live. I don't know if that's available everywhere, but there's an app called like Nextdoor, and that's another place where people can share information.
Local rat app. A lot of people use that to rat on their neighbors like real
Local
assholes.
rat app.
But you could use it for good. Yeah, people call it the rat app. And it's racist as fuck. People be all getting on there being like, you see the brown person that moved next door? Don't trust them. That sort of weird shit.
That's pretty fucking awful.
Yeah.
Like, those
Yeah,
types of
it's
acts,
known
I guess,
for that.
but I think as we've seen with any app, algorithmically, anything can be manipulated against anyone's favor, right? So,
Yeah.
putting some flyers or having the knowledge on hand to just ask people some questions outside wherever they're going into. Don't be like one of those fucking annoying ass Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever the fuck. But like, just ask people if they have a couple of minutes, right? Even if they're wearing a fucking MAGA hat,
Yeah.
Mog hot. What are you, Canadian? Jesus.
I don't know, eh? off. But yeah, like I think that could be a path forward for as far as like keeping money local for the sake of mutualism, because when my neighbor suffers, I suffer.
Yeah. So targeting like places like Target or places like Walmart, places like Giant, or that place like in Florida, I can't remember what the name is. That's like probably it's like I can't remember the name of like the food market, the popular food market there, but Publix, yeah. Like being outside of those places and handing out flyers out there about community gardens and local farmers market would be effective to do, right? Is that what you guys were saying?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It might
It's a
cause
good-
a media ruckus too, like fucking Walmart kicking people off and like fucking it keeps happening,
Yeah.
or like
I think that in the flyers we should also include how a lot of the foods that are sold in those places that are made by corporations have products in them and chemicals that are harmful to their immune system and can cause autoimmune diseases. And then we can discuss the flyer can discuss the benefits of having organic, locally grown food, both for the health and for the society. Yeah.
Like there's a health aspect to buying and eating local, is that when you eat food that was locally grown, pollinated locally with local bees, your immune system becomes more adept to that local area.
Yeah.
So
damn
we're
biodiversity, man.
Yeah, biodiversity, right?
Yeah.
There needs to be some sort of discussion, and it doesn't need to be like some crazy fucking like I'm gonna shove this ideology down your throat, but some sort of discussion about municipal ecology and how we work together as an ecosystem in the municipal level, right?
Yeah.
Because like trying to go at this from a national, federal level is just that ain't it.
So it has to be well researched and not come off as forceful when you explain to people the benefits of eating locally and also diversifying the food that you eat. So you guys are saying, like, is it important then to eat foreign food, like food from like other countries?
I think it's trading with other countries is good, but a lot of the way it's trading now is like the problems like creating like global warming and shit like that, or just like wasting food and other fucking stupid problems we had. Like if we localized, I think we would eat healthier and eat more plentiful.
Yes, that's true.
But
actually,
but I'm still cool with like fucking eating an avocado because they ain't growing in Canada, that's for sure, or like whatever kind of thing, like some fruits and shit.
Yeah, there's a whole cartel behind avocado trades, but we don't have to get into that today. And like, don't demonize people for shopping at these mega stores.
Right? Yeah. Definitely.
And you're not going to be able to buy everything fucking locally, right? But also leading into like lack of work and shit. At least in my farm town, the butcher definitely fucking needs a goddamn apprentice badly, because he's backlogged on everything that people are trying to buy full cows off of ranchers, and the ranchers deliver it to the butcher, and then the butcher the butcher quarters it, divides it, freezes it, cures it, the whole nine, right? And so, like, that could be something too, is that we're in this nationwide meat shortage, quote unquote, right? And if you don't want to eat meat, cool. If you do want to eat meat, then this is like for you. But in your state somewhere, there's going to be a rancher, and he's going to be trying to get rid of his cows, especially as of 2020, because the massive corporate slaughterhouses put all of their work on hold for so long that it created a backlog of cows trying to get into the slaughterhouse, which spiked the supply and didn't change the demand. So the price for the cows dropped. So I mean, these slaughterhouses are making fucking hand over fist on these trades. So to be able to get in contact with local butchers and local ranchers in order to form some type of a cooperative system, I guess, could be a thing. Now, like a cow here probably costs about $800, but if my entire fucking neighborhood gets together and pitches in $50, then they're gonna get a shit ton more meat than they would have gotten for buying it at the store that after it's been fucking dyed and frozen and fucking treated with pesticides and all and preservatives and all that shit. So that could be a discussion too. But one of the things is you have to be able to talk to the people that you live next to.
For sure.
I mean, I had an idea which I could throw in. We were talking about, different ways of reaching out, and I think if we try to build up anything that became like a national kind of thing, it would be kind of hard because once it gets to that large of a level, it's easier to be co-opted. But what I was thinking about, something that I feel like is still effective, bumper stickers. If you had people who's like some kind of bumper stickers we could create, you could know where allies are and be able to see them without having to literally walk up and talk to every single person. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk to people to try to gauge them and all these different things, but I'm just saying that could be something that can help get the word out a little. And so you see those whatever the bumper stickers would say or design, you would know, oh, okay, well, now I found a community of people who are all trying to maybe barter, sell, trade, all of these different things like that. And so with that knowledge, it's a good possibility that you could help. And like my mindset is about going, analog and going less digital. I mean, more of us need to actually start having more telephone conversations and stuff instead of social media. And I'm not saying get away from your social media altogether, but I'm saying if we get past just only talking about solutions, only talking about political solutions, and we start getting into who each of us are as a person, as a human being, it builds that compassion and care. And so when one of us are struggling and going through it a little bit more, I feel like you'll see more of that community aspect kick into gear and start actually helping each other.
That's a good idea. Yeah, have like a tag or something so that people know, okay, there's someone here who, organizes with their community and, I can find.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Well, think about during the primaries. I mean, say you were a Tulsi fan.
Yeah, it's like, oh snap, another Tulsi supporter. Yeah.
You felt, oh shoot, there's one of my people. If you were a Bernie person, the same kind of thing. And so however the design or decal or whatever the group name would be, you'd be able to say, oh, okay, well, this is Neighborhood Farmers Association. And so then once it gets started one place, it's easier for us to do it, and they just starts popping up grassroots style organically all over the place. And I feel like if we can get it going that way, we can use the aspect of monkey see, monkey do. And so we can do something good and then have people say, hey, well, why don't we do our version of that? Yeah, we can do that too. And so that might help to spread that idea without literally connecting to all of these different smaller echelons or groups and pushing the message. Kind of like a trend of doing good.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, that's like more easily trackable to like who the person is, and then like if you just put up flyers or like or what is it, like if you like post like a sign or something like at a store or something with like information and all that. We can do all of that, just diversify the way that we can find each other.
Because like I'll tell Franco, you might know something about this. Maybe everybody in here might not. But in the Latin community, a lot of times what happens, people who are maybe they're trying to get away from cartels and different things like that. There's normally people who, like communities, who come together and who will help. And if they need to hide you, if they need to try to find the coyote and bring you into the country, whatever, they do that. And a lot of times how they'll do it is it might be, say, like a card, and it might just have like I don't know, Mother Teresa on it, and it'll have her on it, and then it'll say basically like, yeah, follow this if you're ever in need. I mean, I don't know if anybody saw the
Well, yeah, that's something that used to happen in the Underground Railroad too, right? They'd have buildings marked.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Shadow. Fill him in. Let him know.
All right. Well, so back in the days of the Underground Railroad, it was all by word of mouth, but they would have certain markings on buildings to let the escaping slave know where their friends were, and they would always be changing them, right? Because eventually the slave patrol would catch on. Yeah. The slave patrol would figure it out and eventually start setting up sting operations, right? But I mean, so it wasn't perfect, but at the same time, they kept on going with it, and they kept on going with it. And you can even see some places in New England and the Old South where there's some buildings that still have these markings in certain places, right? It's kind of their badge of honor. And
they have them all through my hometown in Kansas City, because where I grew up literally is a part where the Underground Railroad comes up in my hometown, like 2 miles from my grandmother's house.
Yeah. So, I mean, that in and of itself is a show of solidarity, because you're willing to let people know and broadcast to the world that you're there for them, not just for you. And like isolation is a form of pathology, and I kind of wanted to get actually your thoughts on this, Marcus. I kind of had this thought the other day, is that religious institutions like churches and shit, back in the I don't know, probably ending around 40 years ago, right? And with Reaganism and the megachurch. This used to be a place where everyone in the community, the church used to be a place where everyone in the community got together on a Sunday morning and would let each other know where they're at, right? So I'm not endorsing any religion, and I'm not saying people go to fucking church or whatever the fuck, right? But what I am saying is that like there was a sense of community that came up organically from that, and so I think that. Yeah, so I think, and especially in the old black churches, that was where they organized their actions, right? Because that was a show of solidarity, right? And so, kind of my thoughts is that how do we get those types of community centers back? Not like a fucking state-owned and run community center where they set up events. But like, how do we get people in a community together anymore? Because we've lost it through the death of the church and the rise of I guess scientism, for lack of a better term. But how do you get that community, that sense of community back?
I feel how the best way to do it, honestly, is you need to show that shared sense, because that's what it really was. I feel. A lot of times, mainly in the black community, the church is still kind of strong to a degree compared to, I mean, honestly, if you look at the people who identify as religious or Christians, the heavy majority of them would be blacks and Latinos. And the reason why is because a lot of the civil rights organization had to go on inside of the church, because it was the only place you weren't being watched or recorded. And so that's where you would go. Well, and then eventually they did start recording into the churches too. But there needs to be the sense of community, and I'm not saying that people just need to go rushing back to churches all of a sudden. Even though I am, I consider myself a religious zealot, I'm not telling people to go running back to churches because I feel the church, all it was a sense of community. Now, rec centers, on the other hand, I think that's something that needs to be pushed for. On the smaller levels, need to push our congresspeople to have more parks, more community center. And if you have more of these things, then it puts more of an environment for people to commune and get together. And as we commune and get together, you start building relationships. When I care about my neighbor, then I'm going to do more for my neighbor. It's easy to say, oh, I care about people, but when you built that relationship, you normally show you care versus just saying you care, or versus just doing half-ass attempts. So I would say, like another thing, which we would do, block parties. Get together, a flyer throughout the neighborhood. Hey, we having a block party. I got the smoker out. I got the grill out, and get together. Hey, bring some beers. You bring this, you bring that. Let's commune, and then you can start to build a solidarity within that neighborhood. That's one. That's a way also. But I feel like these couple of different things, if you start using the sense of community. And getting back to some form of community, whether it's rec system, whether it's, hey, let's all get some, those sumo suits and go and, bounce into each other. We need to be able to find,
I'd do that with you any day, Marcus. Jesus Christ.
Camaraderie.
Yeah.
That's what's needed.
Like annual events and stuff, like have like a local carnival or something, and have like races.
Annual's too far off. It needs to be much. It needs to be.
Oh yeah, I mean like in addition. Monthly. Like in addition.
It needs to be like monthly. It needs to be as often as possible. If you could have it every fucking weekend, do it every weekend. That's how you build that close-knit community. Because when you spend more time with each other, you start feeling more united.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel that kind of with Discord. That's why I don't really talk on I don't go into chats and actually like type. I want people to come into my voice call and like talk to me or whatever. Because you end up yelling way less or like getting way less stressed and way less angry. Because you're able to actually hear the person out. And if they start freaking out, you can kind of see maybe this person is a damaged person and you should fucking be kind to them. But when they're behind a screen, it's just like insane. And then with like on Discord, people in my community have bartered and stuff. Like Josh Davis has like traded like pipes and bongs and stuff for like other Lucky Burrito gave him like an ashtray and like other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like, yeah, I think Discord is a good tool for that. Kind of what we're looking for, like the bartering thing.
Well, Discord's definitely a good tool because it lets us talk unfiltered, I feel. I mean, the only real filter is how much each one of us annoy each other. And then we, as a community, kind of get together and say, hey, Skeptical, you're a piece of shit. Nobody wants to hear your shit anymore. Shut up.
I love you, Skeptical. I'll always let you come at me. You come in Yellow Brick Road. Actually, no.
Come on, guys. Let's not do character assassination this evening.
You're right. But go to the Yellow Brick Road. He'll fucking play with you all fucking day. Pause.
Oh, I plan on bringing him on my show again if you guys would like to watch that.
Sure, yeah.
I'm thinking about having a part 2.
I like how like we all try to
bartering of ideas,
solve problems together. Like if there's ever an issue, like we try to talk things out.
About whatever. Honestly, I'm curious to hear some of his actual ideas because he tells everybody else that we're getting it wrong and we're naive, and I would be really curious to hear what are.
I looked over his 6-point plan, right? And so if we're gonna I'm gonna give him his credit where his credit's due. Serving community and shit, right? Like that is a thing. There is no greater love than to serve, right? As Marcus would agree with me, right? There's some dude that was walking around in sandals a couple thousand years ago said that. how do you serve your community? And like, how you're not gonna know how to serve your fucking community unless you get to know your goddamn community, right? So when people talk about going and serving as a soup kitchen, I feel like there's a nonprofit industrial complex aspect associated with that. And so like and let's not forget that the Panthers did this too, right? So like credit to fucking Skeptical for bringing up the Panthers a lot. That they did. As a matter of fact, bring together people in their community and feed people, right? And have that sense of community within each other. And like the camaraderie that you're talking about, and I will die for you, you will die for me, right? We're gonna police our own neighborhoods and shit like that. And so, how exactly do you do that? How do you bring that sense of community back? Because I feel like we have an astroturf sense of community through the use of social media, where people think that they're part of a community, but they're not, because a community is diverse. A community is a whole lot of different people with a whole lot of different opinions and a whole lot of different backgrounds, right? But the algorithm of any social media platform is to fucking crunch you together and atomize you into like what gets you to click more, and so it just reinforces all of your ideas, whether or not they're good. I'm not telling anyone to not volunteer at their local like soup kitchen, and I'm not telling people to not get involved with any of those things. But how do we move out of that? Maybe start with some flyers. Maybe start with knocking on some doors, right? It requires a certain sense of long suffering, because you may never get anywhere, but you gotta try. You gotta fucking try.
Fucking right.
We're in the end game now. Yeah. We are.
In terms of everything that's going on right now, the way they're fencing up DC, like right after the protest, the eviction moratorium protest, when the Congress people went home after like that speech of victory that they gave, they fenced up the Capitol. Like there is still like 5 people that were still protesting like outside like the little fence that they made, but it's really weird how that happened. They're like fencing things up. We can't protest at these places, these key places.
Yeah, you're not even allowed to fucking go to the steps of the people's house, because it's not for you people, it's for those people. Like,
bro, they don't want to see that a bunch of left-wingers storm the fucking Capitol, because that would just optically look fucking weird for them. They'd be like, what the fuck? They're all Trump supporters. Wait, why are they screaming fucking whatever communist slogans? Or why are they fucking...
Well,
why does that guy have a Bernie shirt on?
I think people really got to let go of the whole federal fucking government thing. You're not going to change them, period, ever. Like, that's a failed fucking... that's a failed concept. It's a failed idea. That's why I say to act locally instead.
I think that
have you guys seen this?
And that it will... There is historical evidence of the federal government being forced to do things and change, but like it's not sustained or whatever, and also they like if you look back in those times in history, there were like all the things we're talking about were more prevalent. Like people had more community and more involvement in politics and local politics.
Are you guys seeing how they're making it they're grouping together people like and calling them like a threat if they go out to protest on 9/11. So it's like opposition to COVID measures, people who claim that there's election fraud and believe Trump can be reinstated, and 9/11 anniversary and religious holidays. Is that potential terror threats? This is the U.S. State Department that's doing this.
Isn't that strange? Because there's an End the Damn Wars march that's supposed to happen on 9/11.
Yeah, and they're using...
Like they caught wind of that and decided that they were going to fucking say that it's a terrorist threat before that it happens, so that they can fucking preemptively fucking say you're a terrorist.
And they're using this as an excuse. Like the guy who was making a bomb threat outside of the Capitol Like, you guys saw that he was in his truck, but it was more.
No, I haven't really seen much about it.
Yeah, it says suspect who made a bomb threat near the U.S. Capitol got out of his vehicle and surrendered to law enforcement. Before that, he was talking about how he wants to talk to Biden and how he's going through a lot of shit. I can play the video if you guys want. I just gotta look for it, but
Oh, I would love to. Yeah. I mean, if you want, man, like, I will die on the hill that DC is out of our reach.
jeez,
It's
it's
not
such
for
a
us.
neoliberal
It wasn't
place
made
here.
for us. It wasn't written, like, none of that shit was written for us. It was written for the fucking masters of mankind, as they used to be called.
Those motherfuckers gone.
Like,
The master
you
of the
can't.
universe could suck my dick.
No, not the master of the universe, masters of the universe. But masters is before that there was a word for, like, fascism, right? The unholy alliance of big business and fucking state. So yeah, like, does anyone else want to jump in? I feel like I've just been fucking running my fucking mouth. I've been drinking too much tea.
Yeah, I do think that it's like maybe it's most likely an insurmountable task to try and reform the federal system or the system
You
as
were
a
talking
whole.
earlier about how to gather community together. How about you start talking with the community about the problems they have and try to unite people and say, hey, let's try and solve these problems according to a proper, clear list of issues to be solved. Because the party idea is awesome and good, but I believe it can be complemented with the part of let's solve real problems within the community.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is that I mentioned it.
The problems have solutions, and that
Yeah,
I
but
don't
like-
we're talking like we were just talking about the federal government. I don't think that it's necessarily gonna like that we can beat them or we can change the capitalist system and the system as a whole. But I think it's worth trying, and that I would like go out kicking and screaming. I think, but like as to what we're talking about with like these solutions or whatever, like for like the bartering and community gardening and like trying to promote getting out of the system and keeping things promoting things like cash and being like anonymous in this society and having our freedoms that people used to like fundamentally agree on. I think that those are the solutions, and that obviously it's not like the best thing we can have, but it's like if all we have is a corporate shit system, I think that making these logistical systems outside of it are really good for ameliorating suffering.
No, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying with like acting locally and getting people together, maybe knocking doors, handing out flyers on where people go and do grocery shopping or go out to fucking dinner or whatever. So that you can actually get to know these people and know what those problems locally are.
Yeah.
I live in a fucking farm town, man, outside of Albuquerque. I don't think really most anyone else has the same problems that I have here. And I don't know jack shit about LA, and I don't know jack shit about DC. I don't know jack shit about New York City. I mean, those are going to be an entirely different set of demands,
Yeah.
an entirely different set of issues. So I can't, and furthermore, I'd like to put this out there that it's not for any one of us to dictate what the path forward is. It's for the community to dictate.
Yeah, to
what the
decide
path forward is.
democratically. I think doing like having this community to rely on and stuff can help prevent some of the desperation, such as what happened here. So the video has been deleted of this man, but I'm sharing the article here that's quoting him. He's saying the revolution starts today, Joe Biden. Bomb suspect rants, I'm one of 5 in video driving to the U.S. Capitol. Floyd Ray Roseberry, who appears to be the suspect sitting in his pickup truck outside the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. with an alleged explosive device, posted several videos of his drive to the building Thursday on social media. In the videos, he began by talking about how his health insurance wouldn't pay for anything anymore. He said he'd been getting injections in his knees to help him walk. But when he went to the doctor, he said that the insurance didn't cover him. He went on to say that his wife had skin cancer, but that the insurance wouldn't cover it either because they considered it cosmetic. He said that his wife had to have her nose practically removed. I cleared my conscience with God, he said, noting that he told his wife he'd be home on Sunday, whichever home it is. I have no fear, none, he continued. That crack in my voice is from the passion for the land I love. Somebody needs to tell Joe Biden we here. Fucking revolution starts today, Joe Biden. And before you go cracking any pops on me, you better get your military experts out and ask them what a 7-pound keg of gunpowder would do with 2.5 pounds of tannerite will do, motherfucker. You know what else? I'm not going to light it. I'm going to give Joe Biden the option to. When he went on to claim that he is one of 5, but didn't clarify what that meant. Them little roadblocks sitting up coming on down here, those roadblocks ain't gonna scare fucking nobody. You wasting your time. Southern boys are here. You can take me out, but you know what's gonna happen, Joe Biden. There's gonna be a chain reaction. And that chain reaction is going to be, I don't know.
So,
Nico speculating that.
Way too orchestrated to be anything but a false flag to me.
Trippy.
In Library of Congress with all
Well, it's
that
very
shit.
like the way it's reading is very like it's touching a nerve. Like it's like I feel bad for the guy. Like and it's like
Yeah, people are calling him like a Trump supporter, and people are saying the fight against fascism hasn't stopped.
One thing, with this guy and like with in America, there are some certain issues that are pretty much across the board, which is healthcare, which even this guy was talking about, and minimum, raising the minimum wage, and so there are some issues that are pretty much across the board. There's so there is a way to get organized, and it is class interest, so there is time and class interest in America, even if it's in different regions or locations, it's still the same demand practically. I think Bernie Sanders was an example of that. I think he had support in many different parts of the country, and he was just calling for certain, in the beginning anyway, he called for certain policies that were, that really resonated with working class people. So
yeah, I respect that and everything. I don't think that's within our reach. I really don't. Not that those policies aren't within our reach. I don't think legislators are within our reach. I think the system is so convoluted and built so intensely well to keep people on the bottom like us out that I don't see us being able to assume any power at the DC level. Maybe later, but I think we'd be skipping steps to try and take power at a federal level if that's the path forward that we choose. But I mean, so let's take this guy's story as legit and not a false flag for a minute. I'm skeptical about it, but
as a mantis.
So am I.
Tough in the end.
Because this just the timing seems way too fucking.
Yeah, because then they released. Because then they released
they
this,
released that
right?
DHS report.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit fucking fortuitous for the State Department and the FBI and the CIA and the NSA and the alphabet soup. But let's take this guy's story as legit for a minute. That dude's fucking desperation would be fucking insanely real. And the type of community outreach that he could have had, maybe they wouldn't have been able to fucking pay for his fucking medical bills and his knees injections. I know all about this. I work in the fucking trades. Like, the reason why that we have such high fucking wages in the trades is to make sure that we can pay for our fucking medical bills, like brand new knees after being in for 20 years, right? And then skin cancer, that's a fucking terrible fucking thing. And maybe the fucking community couldn't have come up with the funds to fucking help him pay for that. I'm not saying it's a fucking cure-all, but if this dude is legit and he was really that fucking desperate, a community could have fucking stopped him from taking those kind of brash decisions into his hands. If it's legit. Right? Like, there needs to be some type of compassion on an interpersonal level that we all have instinctually, that we have, that we need to awaken. Because, I mean, we all, there is a compassionate side to us. There's a cooperative and a compassionate side to us. Our society fucking exalts the self and individual and dog-eat-dog cutthroat shit. But, like, before we take any type of national action, we kind of need to fucking get our own communities right and learn to, and that dude needed some fucking love reached out to him in his life to where that desperate decisions that he made would not have come to pass.
It's like when someone in the Discord community is like acting out irrationally, and in the voice channel, everybody, and even in the in the chats, people try to reason with them. Do you guys feel like that kind of that somewhat helps the individual or whatever individual is acting out irrationally when the community's trying to talk them out of doing something irrational or thinking things irrational that are irrational?
Yeah, I think that, like, not like shame's a bad word, but like I don't know what else word to use, but like, yeah, publicly shaming people. I think it's like somewhat scientifically proven to work, but I don't think like maliciously like picking on people, but like a well guided gripe is like a good thing or whatever. Like, there's this study I seen that like if animals like mice or whatever are not reared by their parents or whatever, like raised by their parents but by their peers, that they become extremely selfish and like what's the word? Just terrible to each other. Like it becomes a very bad society, and it shows that like community and connection with your parents and like a healthy upbringing and all these things can help like bolster a healthier society. So yeah, I don't know. I think that like just the spreading of that kind of knowledge too is super important for like building the community and activist scene that we want to prevent like meltdowns and people like being irrationally freaking out all the time. It's like a lot of people are scarred with trauma that they can't get rid of.
I think one topic we could have in the future, but we can talk a little bit about here if you guys want, is community community healthcare or community nursing, holistic medication. I think that's something that we should discuss. What do you guys think?
I agree. That's like for me, we're like this whole conversation is about like the monetary system or like that kind of thing, and to me, money is like is literally just resources and labor, and like if you're willing to give somebody your time or whatever for whatever, then I think that that's a powerful thing.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think that has its place. I think that can be. There's absolutely no end to what we can build at community levels. I'm very much interested in the ecologist movement, in the municipal ecology type of actions, because yeah, like eventually some community healthcare and holistic medication can come from that. Community nutrition as well, like I was saying, like your immune system is bolstered if you're eating local food, grown locally, with local pollination from local bees, right? And eventually, I mean, regardless of whether there's fucking universal healthcare or not, the fucking price of these commodities, they're not commodities, but they're considered commodities in healthcare, are just going to go up, and there's no way around that. This is their system. They make the rules. They get to change the rules in the middle of the fucking game. So we can come to those, we can build those things at a municipal level and break their system by not fucking being part of their system. We have to. Because if we play their fucking game and we expect to fucking ask for crumbs from their table, we're still fucked.
I just want to bring up this point here to see what you guys think. John B. said community nursing, healthcare, etc. requires funding, resources. These are just not available in poor communities. Do you guys think that this could become available, or you guys agree?
I think it's a problem, especially with some medical problems where you need more advanced like equipment and stuff. You know, like
Yeah, for that we can. I
MRIs.
think we can raise money for that. Like there's like
Yeah, I was just say like
GoFundMes.
look at Cuba, man. They fucking were,
Well,
under sanctions, and they've created like the best medical system in the world, kind of thing. In a lot of ways.
They do still have an entire like national government system. It's not.
Yeah,
They
totally. Yeah.
they still have like this whole money.
But they are under. One of my point is that they have huge.
Yeah, they're under a lot of. There's horrible.
There's
horrible.
stuff I was researching. The military literally has like logistical plans that I think like there's institutions that already have a lot of shit mapped out. That I think like taking a look at these things and maybe like curating them to like fit your idea or whatever like community that you're in and the problems you have would be a good thing. Like Marcus was talking about, like the sticker thing. Like that's like what churches do with like the Jesus fish or whatever. You put that fish on your car and you know where all your Christian friends are, and like that's like the church and shit. They know that shit. Like there's so many institutional things out there. Like even institutions have stolen from like activists and like with guerrilla marketing and like grassroots organizing. Now fucking like graffiti is like cool and is a part of fucking like advertisement for mainstream products and stuff. So I think that like getting into like looking at all these things for marketing and logistics is like would really help a movement and growing it to bypass the like current system.
I think there's a lot of things in healthcare that can opt out and not need necessarily money, but like knowledge, because it pushes people into this, dependency on their products model. For example, type 2 diabetes is reversible. Thousands and thousands of people have reversed type 2 diabetes with diet, exercise, and eating like low-fat vegan food. So, I mean, there are ways to get out of the thing that ends up costing so much money and serving the profit motive. And to me, that's like a green model. Not that anybody else has to care about green, but like the idea of with nature and driven by protecting people's health and building up people's health instead. It's too off topic, but I just throw it out.
Well, I'd ask a little pushback. What if you live in a food desert? If you live in a food desert and you don't necessarily have the means, it's a little harder to just decide to, eat a little differently.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and that's why part of the vision has to be not like just single payer or whatever, or help, getting, shared resources, more and more resources, pay for more, but really pushing to, the one thing I like about Michelle Obama is she really did promote the small garden movement, and I think that's really powerful. We could do more with it than what she had in mind, but the idea of everybody getting comfortable, and little kids and learning how to grow things and learning more, like kids who grow food learn and care more about and will eat more weird vegetables and everything. So it's like a great way to get kids from the early point to be connected, even if it's on a small scale in the beginning, like more symbolic, but like you're building up this awareness, and that you can do this. And then as the community realizes it's important, like in Detroit, the city gardening movement is, as far as I hear, doing pretty good, and I know in LA. So I mean, it's difficult, and it's like, but that's what we have to do to get off of being like in their system, I think. I don't know.
Anyone else does anyone have a response to that?
As far as food deserts go, like I don't know. Well, I know of their existence. I've never seen one, but I do know of their existence. And so, I mean, you gotta work with what you got for now. I mean, so if you have to fucking buy from these massive mega stores to begin with, then that's what you gotta do. You gotta make it happen with what you got for now. And work towards something better. Maybe make some plans organically with each other about how to move forward, because there is a way to do community gardens and rooftop gardens in urban settings. So I've heard. I've never really been to a massive urban center. Well, that's not true. I lived around Denver. That's what I'm saying. At a community level, like, these plans have to be discussed with each other, like, to move forward with what they have at this current moment in time. And I realize that more people are going to have more than others, and some people are going to have almost next to nothing. But you gotta try with something that you possibly have at this current moment in time. Because Washington D.C. is not going to save us. It's not. Mm-hmm. They're like their infrastructure bill is specifically written to put communities into atomized fucking supply chains. Yeah. And it's not looking good for the communities that they're doing it against. A lot of it is gentrification and how they're going to rebuild Detroit and places like that to be parts of the supply chain communities. But like, the people that are left in those in each and every community, like, we got to start talking to each other and asking each other how we move forward, because I think the national sentiment is becoming more and more. Washington's not going to save us, man. There's nothing. The only people that are going to save us is us, with each other. So,
I guess I'll say this part. It's kind of funny to me watching everybody else have to come around to where me and most of my community has been for a long time. And I know some people will be like, oh, well, let's not bring the race thing. No, we have to. Because you have to look at the wealth gap. And with that huge wealth gap being there, you got to understand that affects a certain community a little bit differently than it does other communities. And that's the reason why, like, for instance, I had such a big problem with the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of other movements. What normally happens, especially going back to the 60s and 70s during the civil rights, what happened? That movement got hijacked by the women's movement, and then it got hijacked by the lesbian and gay movement, and then it got hijacked by the trans movement. And what keeps on happening is many of black and brown people show up to hold hands with everybody and try to work to get all these things accomplished. And what seems to keep happening over and over is we kind of get left out. And then we have mostly right-wingers who love to say, well, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. When it's like, have you not seen what this country has done for years and years and years? And now you expect for what, in only a handful of years of somewhat equality, everything's supposed to just snap together and everybody's supposed to be equal now? I mean, it's kind of nonsensical. And so that's the reason why I feel like it's definitely going to be lopsided and bifurcated because certain communities who might not have gotten to, like, for instance, I'll tell you, in the black community, a heavy amount of people I know don't waste their time on either party because we've long given up on them actually doing anything for us. It's kind of more, I'll vote for this party to stop that party, but no expectations of getting anything or improvement in our communities.
Yeah, I think that's with the two parties, that's out of the question. But with politics, I think we still have a pretty good chance for really building a working class political movement, and just basing it on those demands like Medicare for all and raising the minimum wage, things like that. And that can start locally too. You just build local groups behind, based on those demands, and then you eventually link up and build regional groups and things like that.
I think they're going to take it all down. I think they're going to take money from everybody. I think they're going to kill all the small businesses. It's going to be huge corporations deciding everything, very dehumanized. I think they're going to push us out of the land and into the cities and, denser and denser. And I think, everyone's going to be screwed over, and I don't think they care. And I think they're just, I just think it's crazy to trust people who, poison us, don't provide. They don't care that people don't have, the basic necessities. People, I know people don't just trust us. They will think that, we need to be thinking, I think more outside the box of doing economy, community, currency, that kind of thing, getting the banks out where you have to work together, things like that. And I would just quickly say that a lot of communities have these big trucks that come once a month, and people order online, and then they meet the truck and get organic produce, organic dry goods, beans, bulk things. So that might be something that even a food desert could have a stop arranged and bring it in. I don't know.
Since the main topic is about a monetary system, how do you guys think we can convince people, or should we convince people to pull out of their banks? And what should they do instead?
Back in, I think it was 1830 something, I want to say. In France, they tried to have a mutual banking system. It was immediately crushed, of course, by the imperial power of the French government at that time. But it was brought about by Proudhon and his people at that time in the National Assembly. And I think that could be a thing. I think community banking could be a thing where it's not even necessarily a credit union, because I think there's an industrial complex to credit unions just as much as banks, and considering everything's FDIC or fucking NCUA, there's a whole lot of regulatory capture that makes those types of financial institutions illegal, and if not illegal, they're priced out of existence. They can't exist based on financial constraints. But eventually, mutual banking is an idea that never came to fruition because it was seen as a serious threat to monetary monopolization. So it's really hard to get to mutual banking. If anyone's interested in it, Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, French philosopher, he wrote pretty extensively on it in both What is Property and I can't remember the other book, but he's got some work on it.
The banks are such a powerful they're such a powerful force right now. All these, I think isn't it all wars have been started because of pressure from banks, right? Isn't that the case? And they screw
Absolutely.
people over. Like they're the reason why people are becoming homeless. So we really have to figure out ways to take power away from them. I'll
Well,
look
Franco, you
into
can
it.
take it a step further. It's not only most wars are caused by banks. In fact, a lot of the major recessions and depressions we've had have been because of the banks also.
Yeah, mutual banking is something I could look into more. Um, are there any other examples of when this was applied?
I mean, honestly, outside of credit unions, or if you are in a community where you're able to set up some kind of a trust or a community like that, or set up your own banking institution, then I mean, if you have that ability and you have that power, then that gives you a big leg up. Able to literally keep the money in your community or neighborhood. Whereas if you don't have those kind of things, just like if you look into the studies, how long a dollar stays in each different community, and you start looking at these numbers, um, it does make a difference. Communities which have more actual banking solutions, whether it's the major banks, whether it's a credit union, whether it's some kind of mutual, whether it's something like the school board kind of credit union, which are slightly different than a typical credit union. But I mean, those kind of things when you look at those communities which are able to do that, they normally have more autonomy in a lot of areas I mean, like, getting legislation actually, or getting your politicians to pay attention to legislation you care about, getting your politicians to listen to your protest more often. A lot of those things. So yes, by having that money in the community, you're able to pull those resources. When you don't have those resources, and you don't have very much political power, and that's what a lot of people run into in this day and age. Now, it's shitty that more people are starting to fall into this same reality, but you know outside of credit unions, if you don't live in a community where there's already a bare minimum amount of capital to be able to establish that, yeah, it's going to be a tough move.
The night King got shot, he actually proposed that people pull their money out of a certain financial institution and put it in a financial institution that was backed by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. As a matter of fact, that was the direction that the civil rights movement was moving into, is to pull your fucking economic power and put it into your own economic power. Take it out of the hands of the multinational.
The only problem now since then, though, Shadow, is the amount of wealth that the black community has lost since the MLK days. I mean, is almost mind-boggling. So the where the let's say black community was in the times of King, and to be able to have actually power with their money is different. I mean, my grandparents, they were kids that grew up in Tulsa, Greenville, Oklahoma, which got bombed and completely destroyed by white militias and mobs. When that happens, it's hard to rebuild a community again when all of your wealth is gone and they're not going to pay you back their insurance. And so, that wealth gap continues to be a problem, for certain communities.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the material conditions are the same. It was kind of like a point into. He was shot when he started talking about that kind of shit, right? Like, he was also talking about imperialism and shit, right? But
well, in all honesty, it all tracks back to talking about the same people. Even though he was like, protest this, take your money out of this, what a lot of people don't know is he The people who he was talking about knew he was talking about them. I'll say that. And they're the people that you want to be careful talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And with the wealth gap too, I think that's such a big issue because the capitalists have like way too much money and resources, and that leaves us with even with our combined money it's a decent amount, but it's still kind of lacking because the capitalists they have ownership and they have all the money of the major banks and industries, and so that's why I do think it is going to require like a political struggle. That has to be one of the components. Is that we need to remove the capitalists from power? Because that's the whole.
Can I respond and kind of
Wait, no, not yet. That's the only way. That's the only way to really get money into our community is to take it from the capitalists. Like forcibly take it. Like it's a question of political struggle. It's class struggle, and it's a question of power, which is what Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about. He was talking about capitalism. They have the power, they have the money, and that's connected.
It's not about capitalism. It's not. Capitalism is only a vehicle they use. These same people have used capitalism, they've used socialism, they've used communism, they've used monarchies. It's not about the system. It's about the owners at the top. It's about them. People thinking that, Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg they're not doing anything. These are doormen for the people who really make the things happen. So we can't get dogged down and, well, if the capitalists are gone, then it ends. No. It is not that damn easy.
I would add to that
It's a required step, though. I think you gotta get rid of the capitalists, like their power and money and privileges. The billionaires just shouldn't exist, like that. Then, it's not gonna solve everything, but it needs to happen to really get on the road of solving these problems.
Well, what I'm saying is capitalism doesn't make their billions instantly go away. I mean, if we could switch to democratic socialism, communism tomorrow, their money is still there. Their money hasn't went anywhere. For instance, look at Russia, which is a pseudo-capitalist, I guess, some form of a socialistic government. Their billionaires still have tons of money. If you look in even though China's technically not an official communist country, it calls itself communist. The billionaires are still there. It's not the system. It's not the system. These people are above systems.
Yeah,
They don't
like
believe in nation states. They don't believe in ideologies. They believe in themselves and their fucking money. I don't really necessarily think that I don't think addressing just fucking capitalism is going to do anything. And you can say that you're just going to take it from those people all you want, but it doesn't really change the power dynamics, one. And two, like, how are you going to get there? You're not, the idea of just fighting against the power of capital doesn't really you're not giving anyone a system to fight for. You're just saying to fight against. Just take their power with their tools, right?
Their power would be like you take all the you would nationalize the major industries, and it would be under
the government. They've merged with the government. We're already at fascism.
That's what I'm saying, that we can't even use their government. We would be, forming our own government to get rid of their government. It would be like that's what it means to have this power transfer, you just get rid of and you take over the resources, and you take over the banks, and you take over the corporations, and it's
They're
no
drawing
longer.
this line right now. They're just taking like property owners. They're taking businesses. They're just driving people out of business with shutdowns and policies.
I'm talking about the major. I'm talking about the billionaires, like the billionaires, not
Billionaires are not even nothing. Billionaires are not even shit. If you're talking about billionaires, you're still way too low on the totem pole. This is what I'm trying to talk about. This is
billionaires are on the top.
you can look this stat up. You can look this stat up. 5 to 92% of the wealth is already in their hands. They already have all the money. I don't know how you think you're going to fight that or stop that. Think about it. Everybody that you can get a hold of to get on your side, they can literally pay off or pay somebody to bump them off. I don't think you're getting the level of how much power these people have.
Like, what you're saying about billionaires is true. Billionaires really isn't shit when you consider that most capital is actually locked into the derivatives market of finance capital. You're talking about finance capital, which transcends capitalism. This is an entirely new system that we're dealing with here. This is not the capitalism of the 20th century that we're fighting anymore. This is something entirely new. Nobody's put a coin on what to call it yet. This is something entirely new. This is an international finance capital meets international state alliance.
And then there's the technology that supports both that thing to work, but also to spy on every single one of us and have detailed files on every single one of us, and only need AI to like go look for the one you want when you need it, kind of thing. So it's a consolidated amount of power in the history of the planet.
I don't disagree. They do have a lot of power and technology, but at the same time, our power is from class unity, the trade union going on strike, and having our demands.
And when you consider that most industry has been outsourced, so the industry what you're talking about is national labor power, and national labor power has been so greatly reduced and outsourced and atomized and put into a global supply chain that you can have a trade union striking here, but it isn't going to do shit for the supply chains. They're just going to move their markets elsewhere. They've already thought about that aspect, and they've already counteracted it preemptively. They've been proactive about that.
There's 1 million, Amazon workers, and that's a very critical. UPS, Amazon, the post office, going on strike, and the
but you're thinking about a consumer market at a national. You're thinking about a consumer and a labor market at a national level. These people don't believe voters, man. They transcended the border of a nation state. Like, you can't just nationalize something and hope that it gets better anymore. These people will control everything at an international, global governance level.
I do agree with international, solidarity and international political struggle as well, not just in America. I agree with that.
You just said nationalize.
Yeah, but
you can't nationalize an industry anymore. It doesn't work that way. The supply chains have been built in a certain way to keep any type of power out of the hands of the people. They've been working on this plan for the past 100 years, man.
That's what I'm trying to get across. They've been working on this shit before you were born. Years before you were born.
Before our grandparents were born.
You're gonna come with.
Yeah.
You can nationalize the warehouses, the railroads, the hospitals, at least the stuff that the infrastructure
and then the bureaucrats are control people in other countries by those people.
No, it would be under it's under workers' control. That's the whole point.
It's under workers' control right now. They say it. But
no, China does not.
How would you get control? I'm trying to understand. How do you even get control of power of Congress to do any of this stuff you're talking about? We have our representatives are not responding to us at all because they are bought and paid for.
I say it has to be independent of them. I don't believe in the two-party system.
There is no system independent of them.
Yes, there is.
I'm gonna tell you why there's no independent of them. Because you know what happens? I'm trying here. What I'm trying to understand, what I'm trying to get across to you is, you're not talking to somebody who's just like randomly throwing around some ideas. You're talking to somebody who does a lot of researching on this, and have done a lot of researching on this for years. There's no outside, whatever. In fact, I'll give you a perfect example. During the primary season, when they try to run Greens or whatever, they literally took them off of ballots. That's your outside. Your outside is being marginalized all the way out. Every single politician, even in Seattle, what was that? Swarm or Shawant. They literally went into a Congress race. That's how far the corruption has came all the way down. So if they're already corrupt down to a Congress level, how in the hell do you think you're going to get power to nationalize anything?
And even if you do get the power to nationalize anything, how are you so sure that that bureaucratic structure has not already been monopolized by these people? How are you so sure that those people weren't actually installed in that place? Like, this is the power. This is a power structure that they have worked on for at least 100 years. Like, we're talking the end of the classical imperial nations of pre-World War I. They put this plan they set this plan into motion at the end of World War I, at the very least, right? So nationalism doesn't mean anything anymore, right? Like when you talk about nationalizing anything, it can be choked out at the international level. It doesn't work anymore. Like, we can't solutions to the old problems because the old problems aren't there anymore. This is something entirely new.
You would need international political struggle as well, so it can't just be national. I agree with that. There's no question about that.
You can't keep international political figures accountable. It's not possible.
You can link up. In America, if there was a workers' government,
hold our congressperson accountable.
If there was an America,
we can't even hold our fucking local officials accountable, much less an international official.
Here's the thing. I don't even think anyone in the two parties is our representative.
I'm not even talking about two parties, man.
They represent Wall Street and the military-industrial complex. They're not our representative. They represent the capitalist class. So I don't believe in them at all. I think the whole power structure that they represent needs to be totally wiped out. There's no other way to actually get even health care in this country. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah, I don't see how you're going to be able to keep those bureaucrats accountable. I keep on pushing local because because at a municipal level, everyone's accountable to everyone. If you start trying to go beyond the municipal level, like, power structures get convoluted. Power structures are convoluted on purpose. That's why they exist the way that they do. And you can't stop the hunger for power once it begins. Like, you cannot keep power uncorruptible. It's just the nature of power dynamics.
Pulling as much out of that network as you can, I think, is really important.
Yes.
Opting out.
Yes. Opting out of their game and their system. Like, if you talk about nationalizing and a political struggle at the fucking national level and all that, and labor strikes and all that stuff, like, that's fine. But like, I just, those are solutions to an old set of problems. Those things may have been a thing in the early 20th century, maybe, but this is the year 2021. The material conditions are not that. They don't work that way anymore.
I do agree with that, and my thing is that if there was a workers' government, if the Workers' Party took power in this country, you could link
up. I'm in a trade union. I can tell you that my leadership, even at my local level, is not accountable to the membership, dude.
Hold on. You would be able to link up your economy in Peru and with Castillo, and then with Cuba, because they're on the same page. They understand that you need a new system. Like, if Peru was, if Castillo was to become more radical like Fidel Castro was, nationalize the industries, then you start forming these, new systems, that's, I don't think
you're talking about rehashing the 20th century right now. You're talking about creating a bipolar first and second world
no,
system.
it would be social. It would be against capitalism. It would be a new system. It would be socialist.
Yeah, that was exactly what happened throughout the 20th century with the Soviet bloc and Cuba and China and almost India. But that's a 100-year plan. It led to its conclusion. It met its contradictions. And now we need to come up with a new plan for the new set of not only material conditions, but ideological conditions, right? Like, isn't that what dialectical materialism is? Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis? Like, you're still operating upon a 100-year-old thesis. That's not a thing anymore.
No, I don't think I am, because how else are you supposed to organize internationally, other than an international party and an international linking up of socialist countries? How else are you supposed to do it?
First, you have to be able to organize locally and actually
I
be
agree.
independent.
I agree with
not
that.
run, not corrupt, and then
I said
build
that
up.
from the very beginning. I said we need to organize in our towns and our cities, like locally, with each other, face to face, and then it would build build up.
But I think it's not wise to build along like a socialist paradigm, because actually the people who are fighting the most right now are the patriots. Like, I'm not coming from that background.
What?
That's not what I've been doing for 20 years in the Green Party. But the
Fighting for
patriots are the
what?
ones who are actually
No.
standing up
Fighting
for
for
rights.
what?
They're standing
What
up
kind
for
of
rights.
rights?
Well,
Whose
to not
rights?
have poison put in your body from a pharmaceutical corporation
geez,
with no liability, that's captured
First
science,
off,
captured
my boy,
legislature.
I love you, but I will leave on that note. I mean, the bullshit is getting too thick for me. I'll talk to you all later.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna.
Later, Marcus.
I think we're at the past the 90-minute mark. So I think we could end the stream here. Well,
yeah.
next week we'll
Yeah, it's like the 2-hour mark.
I don't know about the Patriots.
well next week we'll focus on how can we establish a community healthcare system and holistic medication and nursing. So I think that would be a good place to do it. And then I'll also bring on Jack Sith and Sebs on the show, Red Sea Socialists, to discuss crypto, because they've done a lot of research on that. So yeah, we'll end it here, guys. Thank you very much for discussing. We covered a lot, and to everybody else, don't forget to stay informed. So discussions like this to figure out solutions are really important. Thank you guys very much.